Hey guys, can you hear me? Yay. Hey Bill, how's Texas? Hey Buffy, Randy, God loves Biggle. You're here. Oh, does it? Can you hear the outside, the peepers? I have the door open, so you probably can. And that's another thing. I just got back to Hyden tonight, from Lexington. And so I'm running around, I'm still sweaty from unloading the car, but the dogs are here. So if one runs through or barks or, jumps up in the screen, just ignore that or I'll try to. Yeah, the crickets are definitely I can hear you. No, I cannot hear you, David. Speak louder, David. So tonight, with my reading, I'm going to because it's been another kind of blah day in the news with the virus, more cases, more everything, businesses closing down, etc. So one of my favorite quotes about humor is that humor is tragedy plus time. And I was looking up before this started on trying to figure out who actually said that. And the closest I can find is Steve Allen, which, if you have to attribute something to a comedy writer, Steve Allen's a pretty good person to attribute something to. But humor, and in my case, and what I write a lot is humor equals tragedy plus time, because at the time that these things are happening, it's a complete tragedy. But, looking back at it a week or two or a month or two or even a year or two later, you start seeing funny pieces that came into it. So that's a lot of what this book is about. Bernadette Peters Hates Me. Things that at the time when they happened to me were complete and total tragedy. But, look back and decided to write about it, and it wasn't so bad. And tonight, the story that I'm going to read is one of those, if I can find it. It is, I've always been a sucker for any type of exercise program. I mean, you can tell by looking at me, I'm an exercise fiend. But this particular exercise that I only did a couple times, and you'll see why tonight. So hopefully you'll enjoy it and take your mind off the news and just sit back, relax, and listen to hot yoga, or how to self-administer your own stroke. I am a jaded man. I've lived long enough with this body of mine to know that it will never look the way I want it to look. I always wished it to have very little extra cushioning and be overloaded with hardness in my arms, legs, shoulders, chest, and torso. But as I have aged, I've lowered the bar on my wants and desires for this temple I call a body. At this point, I would be happy to see my feet when I look down toward them. And I know I have a tattoo somewhere on the front of my hip. I was in my 20s when I got it, and I would like to see it once again before I go to the great workout center in the sky. I don't think that's too much to ask. I know myself well enough to know that unless a gym is offering an all-you-can-eat chicken wings every day, there's no way I'll visit it daily. I'm extremely lazy and impatient and looking for a workout to help me lose excess weight and get me toned quickly and without a lot of effort. So when a few of my friends started telling me about this great new workout they'd discovered, I was intrigued. Tell me more, I eagerly gushed. Hot yoga is the best thing ever, my friend Susan said. It doesn't strain your muscles too much, and you burn thousands of calories in just an hour. Thousands, you say? I was intrigued. I feel so relaxed and refreshed after hot yoga. I can't believe I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks by simply doing it. I didn't change my eating or drinking habits or anything, gushed Donna, another friend. No change in your drinking habits, you say? My interest was definitely piqued. These glowing recommendations were all I needed to lose whatever inhibitions my normally grouchy self would impose on a new workout, and head to the closest Bikram yoga studio. Once there, though, what I discovered was far from a glorified new way to lose weight. What I discovered was the devil himself had decided to tap into the multi-million-dollar fitness industry with his own special workout. Or perhaps one of those scared straight evangelical preachers is behind it, giving people a little taste of what the third ring of hell will feel like if they don't change their ways. For those of you who are fortunate enough never to have visited a Bikram yoga class, let me explain to you what it is. Bikram yoga is a supposed beginner's level yoga class with 26 stances, or more aptly pretzel shapes, conducted in bright fluorescent lighting at a recommended temperature of 105 degrees. That's right, 105 degrees Fahrenheit. 105. I fell for my friends' lies, tricks, and ploys, hook, line, and sinker. I believed them when they said it would not be bad, and I would feel great afterwards. I believed them when they told me it would balance my chi, and I would live in harmony with the universe. More importantly, I believed them when they told me it would result in my having a smoking hot body. I even consulted with my friend Jeff, a workout fanatic. He had read all the propaganda about the healthy results of Bikram yoga and was more than happy and ready to give it a go with me. The day of our first yoga class, I started preparing as soon as I woke up. I drank water incessantly and I ate the proper amounts of protein and carbs at the exact times recommended on the Bikram Studio website. 6 p.m. was the class time. I met Jeff outside the facility and went to the counter to sign up for this miracle class. Making sure she had first collected our money, the too skinny lady at the counter told us some very important rules for the class. Number 1, no talking inside the actual studio where the yoga will take place. Number 2, if you cannot do a stance, just stand straight with your arms at your side. Number 3, if you need to sit down, lay down completely on your back, arms at your side on your mat. Number 4, only drink water when the instructor says you may have some. Number 5, you are not allowed to leave the room during the class, which is 90 minutes. Apparently, these rules are somewhat sacred. In fact, she was so serious and intense giving us the lowdown, I fully expected her to end with, and the most important rule is that you not talk about Bikram yoga, a la Fight Club style. Jeff went ahead of me into the studio to find us 2 spots while I went to the locker room and changed into my workout clothes. After changing, I confidently opened the door to the studio. What hit me next was a wall of heat that can only be explained by preheating your oven to 500 degrees and sticking your head inside. The temperature completely took my breath away. I barely could see. As I tried not to audibly gasp for air, I finally found Jeff, who was already on his mat, looking dazed and confused. Although he had only been in the room 5 minutes longer, his shirt was already visibly soaking wet. I unfurled my yoga mat beside him and sat down. Because it was against the rules, we both had an overwhelming urge to talk. Finally giving in, Jeff whispered, "Psst, it sure is hot in here." "Let's get the hell out of here," I replied in a voice way above a whisper. At that moment, the instructor entered the room and locked the door behind her. She smiled and began the class. I smiled back and the nightmare commenced. The very first thing we did was a full body stretch with our hands raised above our head. Immediately, the wall of mirrors the class was facing showed me I had worn a t-shirt much too short for Bikram yoga. My big, extremely white belly suddenly was on display for all to see as my shirt rose to the level of a halter top. I altered my stretch to minimize the belly flash, just as the teacher told us now to stretch down to our toes. It didn't take a wall of mirrors to tell me that not only was my shirt not long enough, but also my shorts were ill-fitting. Let's just say if there were a plumber's stance in yoga, I would have perfectly achieved that position. I tried to keep up with the different stances and not be self-conscious of how I looked doing them. This became much easier to do as the 105-degree heat and the bright fluorescent lights and the annoying teacher's voice all kept smashing into me. My last conscious sight was Jeff on his back with his leg in a position that looked like he had been mangled in a car wreck or a skiing accident. He mouthed to me, "I'm sorry, we shouldn't have come." Then what I call Bikram's Tourette syndrome took over my body. I think it was my body's only way of getting through this trauma. I started occasionally yelling out random curse words as I tried to twist and contort my body into ways just not possible. I giggled while illegally grabbing my water. I jumped on one foot while trying to do some crouching tiger, hidden dragon stance. I think I just ended up trying to hold the classic position Ralph Macchio made famous in the movie Karate Kid when he continued to fight even with a busted ankle. I can't really tell you because I have no real memory of anything other than the heat. For 90 minutes, I flashed my belly and butt crack to anyone willing to look at it while sweating more than I thought was ever possible. I cussed, prayed, and giggled my way to the end. After the session, Jeff and I sat in the locker room on the cold tile floor. I wanted to cry and he wanted to throw up. We eventually gathered ourselves, showered, and met back outside. I noticed that my eye seemed to be drooping and I did not feel better. I didn't feel great or relaxed, and I was pretty sure my chi wasn't up to par either. I began Googling symptoms of a stroke on my phone. On our way out, the too skinny, perky counter girl informed us that this was a common reaction after the first visit, and that it was, in her exact words, like 100% totally different after the second class. It would be incredible. In fact, she had taken the class every day for 30 days and felt like a new woman. Words can't describe what I wanted to do to that perky girl, but instead, I foolishly listened to her. If she said that it was 100% different on day 2, then who am I to argue with that? She was the expert. Jeff and I decided we would rest one day, then come back for the amazing yoga high promised to us after completing class 2. In happy denial, I drove home, only barely having to hold my drooping eye open with my hand, more excited for the day off than I was for the next class. It's said under a lot of trauma, your brain will shut down to block the memory of extreme peril that it has experienced. For example, my best friend was hit by a car when we were children, and she doesn't remember a thing about it. She just remembers waking up in a full body cast 2 days later at the Mary Breckinridge Hospital. Likewise, 2 days later, I had no recollection of what happened to me during my first Bikram yoga class. For some reason, I did not recall yelling curse words, spurting out large, loud bursts of laughter at inappropriate times, or showing my butt crack and fat belly to anyone in Bikram yoga class. For reasons still unknown to me, I woke up 2 days later and immediately started drinking water, knowing that I would soon be achieving my promised yoga high. I chatted with Jeff mid-morning, and he was a bit reluctant but willing to try it again. I even went so far as to convince another friend, Anne, to join us for this visit. I'm ashamed to say that I told poor sweet Anne it really wasn't that bad. I think I may have even told her that I knew someone who had done it for 30 straight days. Cue the too skinny counter girl. What was I thinking? I don't know. That's the beauty and mystery of the mind, and how cults cultivate new members. During my lunch break at work, I rushed to Target to buy an all-new yoga outfit. I would be ready this time. I knew what to expect. I knew I needed to shop for a really long shirt and really loose shorts that would soak up sweat like a sponge. While there, I bought a matching yoga mat. There's no need not to match, even in 105-degree heat. I was out of shape, not a barbarian. Class time finally rolled around and I was ready. Jeff was looking a little wary at the thought of going back into the inferno, mumbling something about his equilibrium not being right since the other day. I shielded Anne from Jeff's negativity, and we headed into the room. As soon as we walked into the studio, I remembered it was the pit of Hades. All the horrid memories of the first class came rushing back. Ah, hell was the only thing I could think. I decided it best not to make eye contact with Anne. She was looking betrayed and frightened, and hot. Not hot in a good way, but hot as midday August in a Florida parking lot. Anne is a former dancer and in decent shape, but maybe I had oversold this to her. With the click of the door being locked, the fluorescent lights came glaring on, and the teacher started her slow torture. About 20 minutes into class, I still had not correctly achieved one single stance. Jeff was visibly struggling. He was swaying like a drunk man, and I think I saw a little drool coming out of his mouth. Anne, on the other hand, looked comfortable. She had more or less passed out after 10 minutes into the class and was lying flat on her back with her arms at her side on her mat. My Bikram Tourette syndrome kicked in at about the 45-minute stage of class. I was tired of this crap and didn't care anymore. I started cussing and hopping around, trying to hold a stance, and my head was hurting. Our teacher at some point had decided Jeff's name was John, and she was actually calling him out to the class. "Keep up, John," she said. No, your other left arm, John." Jeff was so out of it, he responded to being called John and tried in vain to do better. Anne was still comfortably lying on her mat. I could see her chest rising and falling, so I knew she was still alive. With only 15 minutes left in class, John had taken as much as he could stand. In a moment of clarity, he gathered his things and started staggering for the door. I wanted to yell, "John, it's locked! Stop, you'll spoil everyone's chi!" Not that my own behavior had not already ruined the class. Jeff, stopped just short of the door and plopped down into a fetal position. Anne was still comfortable on her mat, dreaming away. At the end of class, we woke Anne and I helped Jeff back to the locker room. We had made it, but where the heck was my yoga high? I felt like I had been hit by a bus. While getting ready to leave, I looked in the mirror and confirmed it. My right eye was drooping again. Even more tonight than the previous class. I was pretty sure I had suffered a stroke. The three of us sat outside in the cool evening air for a bit after we changed clothes. Anne was fresh as a daisy, feeling great, and said that her skin felt remarkably smooth from her sauna nap. Jeff had a worn-out, beaten-down look to him. I looked like a person who had just suffered a stroke and should be in the emergency room. Jeff immediately said he had to work late the rest of the week and all of next week, and therefore would not be available for class at all. Anne wondered if she would ever get to sleep that night because of her 90-minute nap. I worried that my drooped eye would not bounce back and I would look abnormal for the rest of my life. In the end, we decided each to go our own way and, just like the Fight Club, never speak of this incident again. And so that is my story of hot yoga, or how to self-administer your own stroke. And again, it comes from my book, Bernadette Peters Hates Me, True Tales of a Delusional Man, from Humor Outcast Press. And I thank you guys for joining me tonight. And I think I put a survey up to maybe do another reading, and you guys can vote on a story from my book, or I'll just pick one. And hang in there with everything that's going on, and hopefully we can get together tomorrow and laugh some more. Good night.